श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्त्वनिवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नमः श्री शङ्करानन्द गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने सविलासमहामोह ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणे। So we begin a section from the Pancadasi in the chapter 11, where the necessity and therefore the importance of vairagya is being talked about. And vairagya, as we saw in the last few classes, is not complete, not effective until viveka is done. And so we should remember a simple, it's not we should, but it's useful to remember a very simple example and keep that in the mind as we think about the relationship between vairagya and viveka. And so this is what we went last time, where if you know that what looks to me to be familiar, which is some fruits, turned out to be made out of stone, then my desire to eat it goes away instantly. So this is the viveka. The viveka means that somehow my eyes fool me into thinking that this is a real fruit, and only when I touch it, then I understand it is not an edible fruit. And at that point in time, because of that discrimination between what is edible and what is stone, that viveka, the discrimination means viveka. Because of that viveka, I have vairagya. Even if somebody says, please help yourself. Help yourself with what? You expect me to break my teeth? I'm not going to eat this. This is called vairagya. So this is the example that I think is, even though it is simple, but very, very extremely useful. So similarly, at this point in time, the world appears to be it. This is what I'm faced with. My daily experiences, my interactions are what we call real. Real in the sense that I have to take it seriously. I have to deal with it. Who else will do it? If I don't buy vegetables from the shop, then I'll go hungry. So I have to do that. Everything has to be done by me to deal with this world. This is how I take the world to be. Okay? Here, I take myself to be a human being endowed with certain senses and powers and capacity and body and so on and so forth, and I'm dealing with the world outside. This is how it is. So this is very much like seeing some fruits and they appear to be very real to me, edible. So similarly is the situation where I see the world around me and I see myself as a piece of the world around me, and this is what I'm dealing, and I should be forgiven to say that this is what it is all about. So here Shastra comes along, Vedas come along and says there's a funny stuff going on in here. You need to understand this is not the ultimate truth, and you have always been looking at something to give you complete freedom. We know that. Have you found it yet? So we said, no, we haven't found it, but I'm still looking. Well, stop looking, because I have news for you. The way you're looking, you're never going to find it. This is what is called anirvachaniya, not vachaniya. Nirvachaniya means very definite. So the anirvachaniya is that my sense of happiness is very unpredictable, not sure where it's going to come from. I can't hold on to it. I have some experiences of sukham, but none that I can really be assured of. So that being the case, we know that you're looking for freedom. You haven't found it. There's something funny going on that if you understand, you will find it. Find what? Unconditional freedom. But you have to listen to see what is the funny part going on. The funny part is you have to do viveka. So just like, for example, supposing you go to some place and there's this collection of fruits that are sitting in front of you, and it's on the side, and you are eating your lunch, and you are saying, after lunch I'm going to have this. And so you are thinking about it, you have a desire to eat this beautiful bunch of fruits, and you're waiting for it, you're patient. You may be looking someplace else, but down below in your mind you have a attraction towards this edible fruits that is waiting for you. Exactly. And so the Shastra also says that, listen, I know you're waiting for freedom, but can I tell you something? I know you're dealing with this world. Can I tell you something? This is a false world. What you're seeing is not really real, and you need to do a viveka. Just like you say, this is not edible fruits. This is made out of stone, my dear. And so you are misplacing your desire. Even you're waiting for it, you don't have to wait for it because it is useless. You'll break your teeth if you were to bite it. And so similarly, Shastra says, there's something funny, there is a viveka you need to do. So I find that in this teaching, and there's obviously a lot of different aspects to the teaching, dealing with all the various aspects of my ajnanam, my ignorance. But there's a couple of ways that you can simplify it to a point where it becomes very, the Viveka becomes very effective. And so this one, I'm just going to present that to you. So it's exactly like a person being an actor in a play. It's not something we have not talked about. We have, you are very familiar with it. But I'm bringing that example at this point to make a point about Viveka and Vairagya. So let me just draw a picture for you. So the picture is that a person is a participant in a play. So just imagine if the script of the play is such that you have to have certain pleasures, certain disappointments, certain you have really dashed hopes many times. You're hopeful. It's a combination. It's a very it's a real play with good and bad, positive and negative, creations of certain situations that cause people to expect what is going to happen now, all those kinds of things. It's a very sophisticated play, not just a simple play. And you are a participant in that. And you have a part in it. Excuse me. I think I'll suck on this Ricola. Somehow my my cough, etc., is not going away, and I'm beginning to think it may be allergies, not just a cold. So I'm actually seeing a doctor tomorrow, and we'll find out. So forgive me, please, for talking is not easy in this situation. So you're involved in the play. And imagine assume and imagine that you do not have an identity as a person beyond what your role is in that play. You don't. It's difficult to imagine because it's possible that you, as we know that sometimes that happens, where actors and actresses, in order to calm down or whatever, they drink some alcohol. Because if you're nervous, you're anxious, and you cannot act well, so to alleviate that tension, some kind of a drug or some kind of a alcohol, some drink is sometimes even encouraged. So you can have that. Supposing you had now a little bit too much. Remember the story that Swami Chinmayanand had told about in the springtime. So this is done when the kids go to college. They are given some bhang at the springtime. There is a function during which bhang means marijuana in a liquid form. So all the college students and so on, I'm very happy that I never had that experience, but I'm told that in many of the colleges, the bhang was quite common. And so when that happens, you become inebriated. And so this boy from the village had come to the city for attending a college, and all the boys there said, come on, let's have bhang. And he says, what is that? And he says, oh, no, you'll enjoy it. He had a little bit too much. And he became crazy. He said, I want to go home. So they said, no, it'll be okay. Just lie down and just have fun and just, enjoy the music and dancing and so on. So he says, I want to go home. I don't like anything that's happening. So finally they have to call his parents and said, sir, madam, we're very sorry to say that your son is not taken well to this bhang and he wants to come home, want to go home. Can you please come and take him? Because I don't think he can go by himself. So they all came and took him back to the village, and all throughout he kept on saying, I want to go home, I want to go home. And so finally his parents lay him down on his own bed, put the blanket on top of it, and he kept on saying, I want to go home, because he was still, his mind was crazy. He was just thinking all kinds of stars and lights and so on, and it just didn't suit him to have so much bhang. So his father and mother said, listen, baby, you are home. This is your own bed. Couldn't you see the pictures and so on? He says, no, I want to go home. I remember Swami Chinmayananji used to give that story, and he says, this is our situation, and this is why we say, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. So when we say Hari Om, that means Hari home. Please take me home. Please take me home. Well, this is a good story, I think. But going back to the very premise of the Viveka, the premise of the Viveka before the Vairagya is that if the Viveka is done well, then the way you look at the world will completely change. Completely change. So completely as you see that this is a stone set of fruits. How completely your own attitude towards changes. You no longer want to acquire it, you don't want to eat it. You enjoy seeing it, but you don't want to have anything to do with it. Similarly here, if the Viveka is done and it is understood, the Vairagya follows. And so therefore, in a capsule form, what the Shastra is communicating to us, teaching us, patiently teaching us through so many books. The vision is very simple, but because I am unconvinced, this is where our acharyas say that in the case of the bhang, the effects are very short-lived, somewhat minor. It just gives you some problems for maybe a couple of days. It should not even be for that much. If you had some drinks, stiff drinks, and you are acting crazy and so on and so forth, there are stories. I haven't seen that myself, but there are stories where By drinking, over drinking, people lose their identity. They are lying down in a gutter, and they're all well-to-do people and so on, and they do things that are totally unbecoming to them. And so it's something like that. So going back to the very premise of it, Shastra says, listen, here's what is happening. You are a person. And you are acting in a play. Okay? You are a person and you have a role in the play. Whatever role you have is visible to you. You are familiar with it. And so in some ways, the role is your personality. The role that is given to you in this script. This role is really your personality. This is what people take yourself to be. And this personality is complex. This is a very, very sophisticated play. And this personality is complex. It has many different layers to it. It has a physical layer. Physical layer in the sense that you are putting some clothes on. Costumes, sorry, not clothes, but costumes. You're putting some costumes on that make you look in a very particular way. Something different, something unique. This is the body. And in addition to that, how you talk, what you think, how you behave is all part of the role play. You're kind, or you are not. You're impatient. You get angry very quickly, or you don't. And how you take your relationship with others is your personality. This is all a covering. This is what is called adhyaropa. Adhyaropa means that you are a person and you are endowed with this personality which is not you. Personality is not you. Kind of like a role. I think the way we should look at that, because when we say you and your personality, it just looks like that's me. And yes, I was saying that this personality is complex because it has two parts to it. Okay? The Sthula Sharira is clearly kind of like clothing outside. As we saw in the Bhagavad Gita, Vasansi Jirnani Yatha Vihaya. Just like you have clothes that you are covering yourself with. So this is the outer Adhyaropa. Then there is an inner Adhyaropa which is the Sukshma Sharira. And so that appears to be you, but in fact it is also a covering on you. So there's only two things involved. This is the Viveka that we have to do. I am a person, and so let me just separate the two them in the beginning, and then we will describe each one of them. So I am a person, And I acquire a personality. It's kind of like you go to the producer and the director and said, I'm willing to participate in this play, in this movie or this play. What is it that I have to do? So they say, okay, here's what you need to do. We look at you and say you are the best person to play the following role. So there is a costume. You can go to the costume bank. Just go to A27. So there is a costume waiting for you. Go to A27, put that on. And then here is a script. And here's what we want you to talk about, to think, and so on. And then you're supposed to get very angry. And can you play this role well? And you say, yes, I think I can play this role well. Say, okay. You're given this job. And if you do well, we have lots of movies and you can do well. Remember this example, I believe this was given by Swami Maheshananda, I am not sure. I've given you this story before, where there was a role for a person who's supposed to chase a car thief. And the car thief has really, here's the script. You are a policeman and you get a call saying, please chase this guy who's driving very fast, and you have to really be very careful because it's heavy traffic. Don't run into anything. Can you do it? And so he says, this is the script. And he says, sure. I'm a very good driver. I have driven fast quite well. And this is a high paying job and a little risky because the movie is being shot in real life in and through, freeway traffic. But he says, I can do it. So the script is that you go and try to drive faster than the other person. And towards the end, this person who's trying to escape from you, driving fast, actually leaves you behind. And he is not caught. This is the script. Do you understand it? So the person says yes. So he gets into this patrol car and he starts to get behind this speeding person. And then he realizes, you know what? The script says that he's going to run away from me anyway. So why should I risk my life? This is a play anyway. What difference does it make? So I think I can just try to do it for like a block or so, and 1 mile or so, just to show off I can do it. Then I'm going to turn the radio on and just listen to the local news and let him go. Because, it's just, if he's going to escape me, I might as well let him go. So there is a helicopter up with cameras and so on. And they're saying, this guy did not really chase him for more than just a mile. This is a 50-mile chase. What did he do? And so he coasts around and comes back, and they'll say, what happened? He says, what do you mean what happened? I gave him a chase, and he was going to run away from me anyway. What difference does it make? So they all said, okay, we're going to pay you for these 1 day of work, reluctantly, but we will make sure you never get another role. You're never going to make it. You don't follow instructions. You violate our trust in you. This is not the way to do things. Anyway, so that was just a story, a very beautiful story, I think. And so this, talks about the very basic tenets of the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna says, I don't want to fight. Because Vedanta says that you should really meditate. You should think about things. And I'm thinking about it, and I don't think I need to fight anymore. Let it go. It is just like saying, I don't want to follow the script. Hey, there is a script involved. There are bad guys and good guys. And there is a lot riding on them, the whole future of the society. You have to play the role. And he says, no, I'm not going to play the role. So then he's given, fortunately, some instructions to say, you're making a big blunder. This is not the way to do things. You have to fight. Anyway, so that's something else. Let's go back to our original basis of Viveka. So the Viveka here is, listen to this carefully, this is a very key part of the whole thing. The Viveka is that you are a person. And you are playing a role which is supplied to you by the script of your life. So what this means is, so this is the Viveka between the person and the role that you are playing. They're totally different, right? In the case of in the cases of a person who gets a role in a play, he or she had an identity of who that person is before they play the role, isn't it? You are 20 years of age, you've taken some classes in drama, and you are articulate, you can talk, and you have a certain look about you that can be cast in a particular way. This is who you are. And then you go in for a role and you get it. And you assume the role, and that role is different from your own person as you were. So you enter a role from an identity of a non-role. Similarly, in the story of Swami Chinmayanandaji, there is a person who was a village student and he was not used to drinking, and there was some kind of imposition on him through drinks which is alien to him, but it is short-lived, and once it leaves, then only the memory of it lives in his mind, but he's now back to the original identity. So in both of these cases, there is a certain identity of a person whose identity is, you can call it obscured or covered or suspended by a role. This is the situation. Now let us apply this. These are all examples. Now let us apply this in our lives. So the Shastra says, please do the following Viveka. You are a person who, unlike the other examples, you never knew. See, in the other examples, you had an identity which was obscured for a while, but never really forgotten. Another example of this could be a beautiful, very important example, when we dream every night. So add to it, add the two. One is the role of a play, and the other one is the temporary problem with over drinking. A third example is that of dreaming. Same thing happens in the dream. That you had a certain identity before the dream. Then during the dream, your original identity is obscured and you take on some funny identity, funny exposure to different experiences, totally alien to you. But it doesn't last that long. And after the dream is over, you go back to the original identity. So now we can add that example. So there are three examples. Unlike those examples, Shastra says, you are a person whose identity you do not know, and you never knew that. So this is different from the examples. A lot of similarities, but there are some dissimilarities. And one of the dissimilarities is, which is also part of understanding, that you never knew who your real self was. Never. Not even in your previous life. In fact, all our lives, as we will, we can now articulate, are different roles, different plays, some variations. Sometimes we play the role of a man. Sometimes in the next life we play the role of a woman. And we sometimes might have played the role of certain animals. We don't know. It's very possible. But in all of these roles, you never knew who your identity was as a person. So you took your personality to be yourself. Okay, so this is the one side of, there are two sides to it. This is the person. And this person, this identity, which you have never inquired into, and you never knew, and you still don't know up to this point until it is explained to you, is one where the person never changes. The same person has all these roles and personalities and experiences in all the lives without knowing exactly who I am. And as a result of that, I fail to see that my life, which consists of myriads of experiences, is all a play consisting of my roles in it. I fail to see that. And so here, to enable us to grasp this possibility better, we are again going back to the example of the dream. So in the dream, You are not just a dreamer. You are, in fact, both the creator and the actors of the entire dream. The whole thing is nothing but a play. But you don't see that. You just take a minor role in it as a jiva, as a person. You don't realize the whole thing is a adhyaropa, it's a superimposition. So therefore, there is a temporary imposition of non-reality. But you go back to the original nature of who you are, you regain your identity. In this case, you never knew what the identity is. It's not as though you knew exactly who I am and that this is just temporary and it will go away. It's not like that. That's the difference. And that is the reason why you hesitate to give up the whole thing. Because you think this is what life is all about. I cannot give this up. The play looks so real to you, real in the sense there is no alternative. In the case of an actor, for example, supposing the acting gets very tough, you can say, forget it, I'm not playing this anymore. I'm just going to go back to my original identity. That's it. You can't do that because you don't know what your original identity is. You cannot, there's no question of regaining it. You didn't have it to begin with. You didn't know about it to begin with. So therefore, to summarize all this, to wrap it up, you cannot enjoy life because you don't see it as a play. You see, that's the issue. One does not see it as a play until it is pointed out by a credible source. So this is where in our Shastras we have to do pramana vichara as well as prameya vichara. And for those of you that know a little bit of Sanskrit, what pramana vichara is, it all comes from the dhatu ma, to know. So prama means to know very well, prakarshena ma. And pramana means the means of knowing well. It's called pramana, means the means of knowledge. So one has to do pramana vichara also. So the pramana vichara means, is this a credible source that is convincing me about the viveka? Then through the pramana vichara, which is a separate set of enquiries, we do prameya vichara. So prameya means what is to be seen. One is how to see it and the other one is how to do, what is it to be seen. So what is to be seen is called prameya. And how to be convinced about it is called pramana. So once I understand that this is a credible pramana, this is not just man-made pramana, somebody coming up and saying, I have a new insight about the world. And say, how did you get it? Oh, I don't know. One day I dreamt. It came in my dream. So anything that comes in your dream is highly suspect. Everything in this dream is suspect. It's not like that. And also this knowledge can never be begun. So this is what is called apaurusheya. This is not purushasya vishaya. This is always there. Vedas have always been there. So you have to inquire into the authenticity of it. You have to verify it. Once it is done, and you know that what is being talked about is true and helpful to me, then the Viveka says, the Viveka pointed out is, listen, there are only two things. One is, you are a person that never changes. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Satchidanandaha Asti Bhati Priyam Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Three aspects to it. You're always there. Swatasiddhaha. You don't need any external knowledge. Swayam Bhuhu, Swayam Jyotihi. Anantam. Not as though you're independent of time. You're always there. Not a question of you're not there for a long time. Time is not something which is enclosing you. You are enclosing the time. This is the person. This is the person. Remember, we are talking about the two aspects to it. The Viveka is the person and the personality. So the person is Satyam Jnanam Anantam, always the same. Never born, never started. You've always been there, but never inquired into. Life after life after life, you're only, because you didn't know the truth about yourself, you're in a constant dream. You're in a constant play. Constant. Totally. From morning to evening, from birth to death. Looking for better roles, looking for some temporary rest, but beset by the problems and worries that are part and parcel of the role. You're not the role. You're not the personality. It's a covering. It is something which can be shed. It is not you. You are not changeable, unaffectable. This is who you are as a person. And the other part is that everything that you are seeing, everything that you're experiencing, everything that you are visualizing, everything that you are concerned with, Everything that you're dealing with was the word I was really looking for. Everything that you're dealing with is part of a play. You are playing a very sophisticated, you're playing a role in a very sophisticated play. And the part about extracting yourself from it, it has some special challenges because of the repetitive nature of your experiences. See, this is an important thing that the Shastra points out. Shastra says, and we'll study this in great detail in the book on Mandukya, with Swami Akhandanandaji's commentary on the 4 volumes of the Karika. That's a great book, and if we can just study this in depth, I think we're done. I wouldn't mind really just finishing my teaching with just going over that, and I'm really planning to do that. I don't know when, maybe another, I just feel that I want to do this with you. I'm also getting old. I don't know how long I'll be able to teach, but I do want to finish the, and even if you've taken Mandukya with me, which we did only about 4 or 5 years back, even maybe less than that. Even if you did that, that was just an initial introduction. But it's just absolutely phenomenally the way the whole explanation is. It just gives so much clarity. It is unbelievable. So there it is said, in that Gaudapadaji's Karika, it is pointed out that one of the challenges of seeing that the world is a play is the repetitive nature of it. And by that it is meant, really speaking, this is something we're going to see this in great detail again. We have already done that once, but in great detail, great sense of clarity, great sense of insight and effectiveness, is that the dream experiences are fundamentally similar and the same as our waking experiences. While you're in the dream, they have the same effect on you. You have the same experiences. Whatever you are dealing with in the waking world, something similar to that you're dealing with in the dream world, with one big difference. The sense of repetition is not there in your own dream. There is a little bit of repetition. I think the better word than repetition may not be the best word, I'm sorry. Reinforcement is a better word. So reinforcement means, it's kind of like, supposing you meet some people at a party You go to some social get-together, and they say a large one. Like, sometimes there's the town has some kind of a get-together on 4th of July. I know in Los Altos Hills there is a get-together where hundreds of people go to a kind of like a town-sponsored fair where there's drinks available, there's food, and you just enjoy it. It's July time, very nice weather, and so on. And you meet dozens, if not hundreds of people. And it's all very pleasant. You just nod as you're passing by, even though you don't know them, because you're all part of the same town. And so hi, how are you? Good, good. And then you meet someone maybe just for a few minutes, and you enjoy ice cream together, some drinks. Sometimes you even recognize, haven't I seen you before? Yes, I think so. We met over here. Then you move on. So their sense of reinforcement is not there. It's not there. Why? Because you keep moving to a different set of experiences, and your reactions to people may be similar, but the reinforcement is not there. What do you mean by reinforcement? It means if you go to, even if you go, supposing, to the same fair, and finally one of your friends recognizes you and he says, "Oh, come, see, please sit down. This table has 10 people." And he said, "Please sit down. There's a couple of chairs. Please, both of you, please sit down. I want you to meet our neighbors. And I think you have some similar backgrounds. I think you'll enjoy meeting them." So we'll say, "Yes, hello." So he says, "Did you work for Hewlett-Packard?" "Yes, I work for Hewlett-Packard." "Where did you work?" Then you now have some reinforcement. And you have some memories that you can carry back, because you can even take some names down. So it's not just a casual acquaintance. Now you have some reinforcement, some repetition, and so on. So now you get to know them, and perhaps you may meet somebody, again, the same people someplace else. So this is the difference between Jagrat Avastha and Sushupti Avastha. It is identical, the same type of experiences between them. But because you have repetition, here, if you're married and you have never been divorced and remarried, which can happen, but you've been married to the same person. You wake up to the same person every morning. You deal with the same person the whole day. You share experiences. And the experiences are very similar. There's some differences between you. It is he or she. You have some likes and dislikes. You have some shared moments, some pleasures, some pain. All those are the same. But because of the repetitive nature of it, it looks very real. It looks very real. And all that happens is that your separation would have to wait for a while. If you are married, or if you're not married, you're single, and your parents and so on, you will get separated after a while, not right away. But your identity remains the same. Your sense of working in this, or not working, but of enjoying this play remains the same. So in essence, what the Viveka is that the whole life is nothing but a play. That you are associated with. And little samples of that is given in the dream. Because the dream is, you're pointing out and say, see how you acquire a kind of like a false identity for a little while. False identity means some kind of a personality where you are set with it for a while and you forget who you were, but then it goes away. In the dream it goes away, you go back to the same personality. Here what happens is it never goes away until you do the Viveka. If you do the Vivek, if you are able to follow the instructions of the Vedas, Vedas say, my dear, this is where the relationship between a guru and shishya is so important. This is where I think sometimes we lose out by just giving a lecture and, sitting here and so on. And, you need to really, so the teacher has to really, you have to have some shraddha. And when the words are pointed out, when the words are said, it should be seen, because the Guru says, listen, this is like a play. You are involved in a play. It is not you. You're not even playing a part in the play. The whole thing is the play. It's not just you are a dreamer, the whole dream is you. This is what is pointed out in the Vedanta, and most effectively done, I think, in Mandukya and Karika. Best way. Pointing out the differences, how things look very real and they're not. When that happens, when that Viveka takes place, imagine a person dealing with the world in a completely different fashion. Whatever happens, happens. It is part of a play. Why? Because the person that you are, separate from the play, is now very real to you. It wasn't known at all, and now with the help of the Shastra, it is very clearly seen as a Sakshi, as a Brahman. Never started, not possible to be touched by time or place or by vastu. Always the same, independent, Svatasiddha. So once that is known, you falsify the whole life around you. Falsify in the sense of, it's not as though it's going to disappear. This is why the example of the play is so good. It's not as though by understanding that this is a play, the whole play disappears. It might happen in a dream, but not in a play. In a play, if you are confused and you don't like it, I gave you that example, which is, I think, since we are talking about the play as an example, I think Swami Dayanandji had given this example, very useful. That there was this lady who was an actor, and a very consummate one, and she used to act in a play where there was domestic violence, and her husband used to beat her up with anger and so on, and she used to cry, and the husband would slap her and so on. So she had two kids, as the example, beautiful example, I think. Two kids. One was 3-year-old and the other one was 9-year-old. And so usually when she would go for her play, this was a play that would be, played on weekends, every weekend or something, every Saturday. And so normally she'll get her kids in a daycare or some babysitter. But this time she couldn't find anything, so she said, please, I'm going to be very busy with the play. And she told her older daughter, 9-year-old daughter, that please take care of the 3-year-old because, this play is a very funny one. You guys just stay on the side and just keep her busy with some crayons and stuff like that. It'll take me about an hour or so, and then I'll be done and I can take you home. So the 9-year-old said, yeah, Mom, I'll take care of it. It's okay. So then the play started, and this violent scene started, and this 3-year-old said, oh my God, what is happening? Somebody's beating up my mom. So the 9-year-old said, quiet, 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 sit down. Nothing is beating up the mom. It's okay, it's all right, just do your work. And this 3-year-old girl said, no. So she just ran into the stage and hugged her mom and said, Mom, why is the guy beating you? I don't understand this. Can you imagine the whole play would get completely spoiled? All because in the eyes of the 3-year-old, she could not distinguish what is reality, what is play. In the eyes of the 9-year-old, she knew. She knew that my mother had told me, I've seen this before, that really doesn't hurt her. He just does a good job of making a big sound and so on. And she also gets paid a lot of money for doing this. It's okay. Nobody likes these kinds of roles, but it's just not a big deal. This is our situation. We cannot do Vairagya because we have not done Viveka and Vichara. So again, I have a lesson plan with verses number 67 to 86, about 20 verses that are ready to go. This is the third week where we haven't even entered the details of it because the background to Viveka and Vairagya need to be understood very well. And I think you know all of that. This is really just, I'm not sure there's anything new. But I enjoy talking about this and presenting it in a way that it is relevant. So it is good to review the elements of Vairagya. Because sometimes, you feel Vairagya, and it just looks very technical. It doesn't need to be. It has to be understood to really make a progress in our lives. We have to look at what I think is happening around me is really just Ishvara's play, and I am different from that. And the more you start to really follow that Viveka, the better off you will be in the Vairagya. And the other part of that is, this is a very good measuring stick. It's a very good measuring stick in the sense that you can see whether your Viveka is done yet or not. If the world bothers you and you don't see that as a play, that means you haven't done the viveka properly. There's more to be done. So do it. Take to it. And then and it will happen slowly to the vairagya, because unlike in the case of the bhang and other examples, or even the dream, it's not going to go away right away. But it goes. It'll go. So that has to be understood and followed. It might take a little longer time. And all that is being talked about in these verses. So again, I keep promising that we will do these verses, but just the very background of it, I don't know. I was just thinking about this this morning, about this example of the play, though I thought I would talk about it, and then hour passes by so quickly. I have no idea. So with that, we will postpone the discussion, specific discussion about these specific verses of Pancadasi chapter 13 to next week. Om asatoma sadgamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnamevavashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Or even the dream, it's not going to go away. Yes, bhang is usually consumed during the holy festival. Yeah. Hello, Chris Narayan. Hello, haven't seen you for a while. Hope you're doing well. You may have attended classes, but I didn't see your name very well. So give me an email to tell me how you're doing. Good to see you. I'll see everybody else. So I'll continue to talk a little bit about our 1 week together at the May retreat at the ashram. As I indicated to you in my WhatsApp, after some consideration, we've decided to keep it. And I'm happy a lot of people have already said yes. And if you are able to make a decision on that, take your time, but we'd very much like to have you there. I know many of you are busy with families and so on, but then, this is important stuff to give yourself some time, not just be, we are living a family life for most of the time, and if it cannot be done, it's a different thing. But if you're able to take time off, then I think it'll be a very, a very interesting 1 week of, 17, 18 classes, where we will go in this material with great depth, and we'll live together. We'll pray and eat and relax and learn. I think it'll be a wonderful experience. So I feel that if you are able to somehow make it for 1 week, it'll be a lot of fun. So anyway, I'll keep bugging you in hopes that you will join me during that week. Otherwise, good to see you all, wonderful, and I'll hopefully see you next week. Hari Om.